Hello, and welcome to Pique My Interest, a podcast dedicated to creativity. My name is Scoob Decker, and I am an artist and your host. PMI is an exploration in meeting some incredible artists, learning about their craft, and exploring what makes them create. In this episode, our next artist combines passion, storytelling, and even sensual performance. She is absolutely an explorer of movement who finds beauty in imperfection. Jordan Singletary is a phenomenal performer whose experiences have taken her from NBA dancing to the burlesque parody show known as The Empire Strips Back. This episode dives into her need for movement, what inspires her to create, and how much she wants the world to know about the many genres of dance. This episode was recorded on March 8th in Denver, Colorado. I hope you can look up their work and your interest is piqued. I hope you are having a grand day, and please enjoy this week's episode I've titled, Showing People a Part of You. Hello, and welcome to Pique My Interest. I am currently in Denver, Colorado, sitting with a very awesome, unique artist. Will you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Jordan Singletary.
How are you doing today, Jordan?
I'm doing good.
Excellent. Can you explain to us what is your craft?
My craft is dance and performance. Dance has a lot of different avenues, and I'm proud to have traveled down quite a few, very different from each other, different types of avenues, all the way from NBA style dancing, professional dancing, street style and battling, and more recently in burlesque.
Burlesque. What is your specialty within your craft? What separates you from other performers?
Damn, that's a hard question. I think the range that I bring, how I haven't really been able to settle and fixate on, for example, one style or one avenue of dance. It's always kind of like, the more I learn about dance, the more that I want to touch every crevice of that world. Like, I want to be in every single one. So I think kind of just being in a lot of different places and the different backgrounds that I do have, the way that those come together in my performance is kind of what makes me stand out from other people.
Yeah. Definitely inspired by movement.
Yes.
And love all sorts of movement.
Yes.
I love that. What's your background? Where are you from, and do you have any education in dance?
I'm originally from Arizona, born and raised. I danced out there right when I was graduated from high school, started into the NBA world and did that for 4 years. Dabbled into the WNBA world, which was like the Phoenix Mercury, which was more hip-hop styles and things like that. So kind of already balancing those two, kind of this very glamorous side, sexy side versus this like WNBA just getting people fucking hyped up and just like that whole thing. So they kind of gave me best of both worlds. After that, I wasn't dancing and I was just kind of needing movement and therapy and just love for myself. So I started doing yoga and I started teaching yoga, really diving into that. Once that kind of reconnected me with my body, it was imperative that I needed to continue dancing. So I moved to the Bay, which is now what like I consider my home. I was there for about 7 years. I trained out there. I taught classes out there. I was a part of different companies. And I feel like that's where majority of my growth really came. That's where I grew up a lot and really kind of discovered who I am as like an artist and what I want to bring to the world. So from battling and freestyling, just still such a huge part of what I love and who I want to be as an artist and feel like I am as an artist. Along with this like heels, sexy side that I just also can't really put away. And that's also when I got introduced to the burlesque world, which is what I'm heavily involved in now, or at least trying to be. So, yeah.
Yeah, your range it blows me away.
Thank you.
in my minimal research and going through your Instagram and seeing some of this competitions type dance.
It's very fun.
As well as I did go recently see your most recent show of Empire Strips Back.
Whoop, whoop.
It's just the most unique, clever collaboration between Star Wars and burlesque dancing.
Yes.
And I will say you stand apart from the rest. You just have this aura of your passion and your storytelling.
Well, thank
and
you.
I just can't express to my peekers out there that how much you really draw attention on stage.
Thank you.
And so I just want to touch on that a little bit. What piqued your interest about burlesque dancing? How did you go from being an NBA dancer to where it's kind of just like hype up, do whatever, into this whole world of what some might perceive as almost stripping?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think as separate as they are, it has such a huge part of why I'm in the world of burlesque now. The NBA world, I was 18 to 22 years old. I was such a baby. And being told how to look, how to like weight and body restraint and have this type of hair and look like this and look like every girl that's right next to you and all of that stuff. As much as I loved it and I loved the glam side of it, I loved dancing and the energy of the games and all of like that. It was contagious. It was incredible. So I stuck with it for 4 years. But after that, it was reworking a lot of things of like, wait, why do I dance in the first place? A lot of this like kind of toxic mentality that a lot of professional, like especially sports related professional dancers go through. It has lasting impacts, like really lasting impacts on your brain, on your body, on the way that you view yourself and all kinds of things. So we flash forward to when I get introduced into burlesque. And it kind of just happened organically, which was really nice. But then once I stepped into it, it's like this tsunami of just like, holy shit, this is where I need to be.
Just blew you away.
Yeah, because everything, it's kind of like you don't kink shame in burlesque. You don't body shame in burlesque. Like everybody has something to bring to the table, to a stage in the burlesque world. And everybody belongs on the stage, and like it's kind of just a matter of what you want to bring authentically and individually like to yourself. So I think the thing that turns me on the most about burlesque is this like utmost like acceptance and just this kind of like super powerful energy that comes from you just stepping on a stage and like being you, and you're not trying to look a certain way or be a certain way, but you can feel someone's energy if they're being authentic. And I feel like that's what the world of burlesque has kind of given me, is that like power to step on a stage and be exactly who the fuck I am.
And support from your fellow company members too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you meet all, your cast is just kind of like your family, especially as we travel and do all this stuff, that each one of us is human. We have our insecurities, we have our things, but each one of us can also see in that other person what you sometimes don't see in yourself. So being able to bring that out for each other so that you can really kind of just harness that for yourself, like it's a very powerful form. And I think, it's very important, like to the world, just politically. I think it's very important that we see all different types of people and all different types of bodies and all different types of movers and just like anybody. I feel like the world of burlesque just opens up that door to kind of anybody if you feel like kind of an outcast or whatever.
Yeah, I think one of the beautiful things about burlesque is there's no rules.
Yes.
And you can kind of make it your own. Mm-hmm. Or if you're in a show, you kind of have a theme that everybody kind of gets to make it their own.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Speaking of making it your own, you do play a very iconic character. You play Darth Vader.
Yeah.
I would consider that the utmost success as a dancer. You get to play the greatest villain of all time.
Yeah.
What do you consider success in your craft? Do you consider yourself successful? And what really got you excelling and succeeding?
I love that, because I think everyone should have their own interpretation of what success is. Mine is heavily correlated with my happiness. So because I change a lot and I evolve a lot into a lot of different types of people. So even what I'm happy and feel successful in right now might not be the case in 6 months or a year or two. But as long as I'm kind of staying in that general field of where this happiness comes from right now, being on a stage, performing every night, that is bringing me so much joy, and that makes me feel powerful. It makes me feel happy and stuff. So to me, that is a form of success. Like, being able to just do what I want to do in the terms that I want to do it is huge. So I think it's, it's evolving. It's like an ever-changing answer what success is, but I think it has so much to do with your happiness levels and not really like money necessarily. I think those have to go in. Those are,
right now, unfortunately.
They're friends. They're branches of it, but essentially like doing what the fuck you want to do and how you want to do it in some way, shape, or form is success to me. Yeah, for me personally.
Well, like I said, watching you on stage, it feels like we can just feel that.
Yay,
it's so wonderful. I've mentioned that you're a part of Empire Strips Back, and we've talked a little bit about your transformation from genre to genre in dance. We mentioned before meeting up that you want to get into a little bit of creating your own burlesque.
Yeah.
What gets your creative juices flowing? What do you like to do that gets your ideas popping?
I think because I move so much, I love to like just be really still. I'm a stoner. I love to get high. I love to listen to music and dance around with no cameras and no mirrors and just feel it. Music is the main source of energy for my life, I think, so I'm highly influenced by that. When I hear a song that just sits right, and it just makes you get up and want to move. I think that's really important. But yeah, I think I lost my train of thought.
Stoner.
Exactly. So yeah, getting my creative juices flowing. I think sometimes it could be really hard. When I was teaching in San Francisco, I taught a couple different weekly classes and stuff. And it was such a difficult process to like create. I loved doing it. It was my favorite, but getting in the studio, forcing this like choreography out so I could teach it that night and stuff, like I would kind of put myself through it like mentally because it just wasn't good enough. It wasn't Instagrammable. It wasn't, viral. It wasn't going to be this next viral thing. So I think as far as my creative process goes, the further I can get away from like watching what it looks like and more so feeling what it feels like is when I think I have the best results. When I sit and I like overanalyze it and I'm like, is this the right move? Dancing is just dancing. Like, we're just human flesh moving our bodies, and music is involved. So it's kind of just silly at the end of the day. So if it doesn't feel good, I can't imagine that it would look good. So I think that like, as long as, I can stay in that realm of like feeling okay, then I think that helps my creative juices kind of keep going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What inspires you? No, you mentioned music a little bit. Have you ever thought about becoming a musician, writing your own music, playing your own instrument?
I would love to. I think it's fascinating to learn about other different things, especially when music so seriously obviously correlates with dancing. When I was in the Bay, I had a friend, shout out to Davey Smiles. He is a vinyl DJ. He does all kinds of stuff, but he like really is heavy in his vinyl. So he taught me how to go crate digging. He was teaching me how to spin vinyl and stuff. And so that was kind of like a version of me kind of branching out and being like, okay, well, if my body doesn't last me forever to do this dancing 8 shows a week thing, then what other things can I do in that world of music and stuff? So yeah, I have this like side dream that I'm going to be like a DJ someday or something. So yeah, I would love to learn how to play instruments and stuff. I love to sing. Yeah, anything kind of related to music is just magical to me, and I want to learn it all. I have a short attention span, but that's something that I can stay with. Yeah.
I think that brings something to your art form as well. As an artist, we all run into a wall with our creativity. How do you overcome a creative block?
I kind of take a break from it. I think when my brain, especially like just thinking of choreography and things like that, when I just don't like what I'm coming up with, I used to just try to force it more. And I think, even my aunt, she was also a dancer, choreographer, producer. I watched her creative process and I learned a lot from it. And it's just not forced. It's just she'll take a break from it. So I learned from that, and that, yeah, if I'm in that place, even just going and taking a walk or just going and doing something completely separate from this activity, usually I can come back to it and have kind of a fresh perspective. And then I'm kind of like, oh, I was overthinking that, or oh no, now I have a much better idea. But I think, yeah, trying to just force and regurgitate things is just, it doesn't actually do you any good. But sometimes just taking that little break, it can kind of clear your mind and you make better decisions.
Speaking of stepping back and doing something else, what are your hobbies? And do they complement or contradict your craft?
Well, we talked about how I love weed. So I don't know, that does a little bit of both. Otherwise, no, I think like my favorite thing to do outside of this stuff is, back in the Bay, we had just freestyle sessions and stuff. You'd get together with friends, you'd put music on, and you would just dance together. I love going to concerts, anything with like live music, live musicians, anything like that. I've been getting into reading. That's new. I told you my attention span isn't great. So like when I get a good book that keeps me in, I get really excited.
Yoga. You like
yoga, I do love, yeah, anything body movement. Just, yeah, it's perfect. And then finding new music is always just kind of the thing. I feel like I'm always just searching for more. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. All right, here's a big one. Are there any misconceptions about your craft?
Oh, God, yes. Yes. Yeah, I think that blurred line between stripping and burlesque, I think people have a lot of assumptions about maybe what burlesque is. I know I did, even when I first started. When I was first in San Francisco and doing the show, I kind of just kept it to myself at first until I fully became comfortable being like, oh yeah, I'm doing this thing, and sometimes I take my clothes off on the stage, and I don't know, like, so it was even a challenge for my own brain to get over. And then learning more about burlesque and things like that, and how political it is, and how just, like you said, no rules and all accepting it is, like, then it became more apparent that that's exactly where I belonged. But yeah, I think a lot of people have their ideas of any person that's on a stage and might be taking off their clothes. Also with this show, it's just very silly. I don't think they expect the production value of this show. I don't think they expect such a well thought out, like start to finish craft, like that has like this recipe that is just perfectly put together. So I think people think it's, that burlesque is just kind of like randomly put together, or just kind of last minute thoughts or anything. But yeah, I think it's much more powerful, it's much more intimate, and very specific to that person, which I like. Yeah.
For a newcomer trying to get into burlesque, would you have any advice on trying to make that leap beyond just being dancing, going into burlesque? Do you have any advice, or what was your experience going from I'm dancing to I'm about to take some of my clothes off in front of people?
I think it all starts with, how are you feeling about yourself? That's so easily translated through energy and body movement and awareness, and people can feel it. So I think there has to be this like deep understanding and really just like deep compassion, and that can happen in the journey. It doesn't really have to be picture perfect before you step up onto stage, but as long as it's, to me, friends have described it as kind of like just like an extreme form of self-care and self-love. Every time you step onto that stage, you're honoring people that have done this before you, that have kind of paved the way and were the first women to be taking their clothes off on stage and not necessarily be considered strippers, but be considered these glam girls. And so you're kind of stepping into the footsteps of people. So you have that to kind of hold you and keep you powerful. Drive if you don't forward. Feel it yourself yet. And then hopefully it can get you to a place where you're just kind of, at least where I feel like I'm at right now, where you're just kind of, the force is with you. The force is strong with you. And, where you just have that that extreme self-love that kind of no matter what happens on stage, you're showing people a part of you, and that's beautiful, and that's what that is. So I think like just that deep work, I guess it's much more complex than I put it, but that deep work of just really loving yourself and honoring yourself, making sure that people are seeing a part of you and you're not showing them something you think they want to see, is, I think, helpful. Staying authentic to what feels right for you, feels good for you, and honors you as that individual person.
Showing a piece of you while showing a piece of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of the force is strong with you, I feel like the stories, the storytelling is also a huge part of it. Mm-hmm. Once you have the confidence in not only yourself, but the dance itself, the story itself,
yeah.
I'm sure it gets a lot easier and more fun to be a part of.
Yeah, if you have a reason for why you're up there and why you're doing certain things, it brings a lot more energy to it, I think, other than, I'm going over to this side of the stage because this is what I've been told. Versus, like, I'm coming over to stare you directly in your damn eyes because you're going to watch me do this thing. So, yeah, having that storytelling and just anything that's giving you, I don't know, I guess just that idea of, like, I'm up here doing this and you're able to watch it, lucky you, as opposed to, I think, as dancers and stuff, we chase the hype. Mm-hmm. Like, we want them to yell. Of course, it's intoxicating, it's fantastic, but instead of chasing that, like, this is what I'll do and it's gonna make them yell and whatever, but it might not feel authentic to you, versus you guys are getting a piece of me today, you're welcome kind of energy. I feel like that helped me a lot on stage, just kind of know how to carry myself and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you have any advice for people trying to learn how to carry themselves? Do you recommend going to school or classes for dance, or how would you get experience in burlesque?
I think showing up to the events, going and watching other burlesque performers is probably number one. Learning what the shows feel like, what different people do, that's the best way to learn. I think definitely taking class and stuff is always good for you. Taking different varieties and styles of classes, the more you learn, it's not going to make it worse. It's only going to help you turn into a more well-rounded performer. So even if you're like, all right, I kind of like burlesque, but I also kind of like crump. And those aren't naturally stuff that you would put together, but maybe that's your shit. And we need to see that on a stage. So go take those classes, go to the shows and see those. Watch the people that inspire you and learn their stories, talk to them, take their classes, try to get some privates if you can. And if money's always an issue and stuff, there's ways to still do that and reach out to people and say, I want to learn about what you do. I want to learn about your craft. And you'd be surprised, if you can't go take classes all the time, mm-hmm. people are still willing to teach and they're still willing to share. So.
People are always willing to share.
Yeah.
Case in point, I reached out to Jordan just a few days ago and she was so willing to meet up with me, and I can't thank you enough for being here.
Of course.
How do you handle criticism? I know it's a very touchy subject. There's a lot of people in this country that might have different opinions about what you might do. Do you listen to criticism? Do you try and brush it off? Do you try and accept it and change things?
Yeah, I think I definitely listen. I've sometimes listened to things that I don't need to listen to or hold on to it for too long. But I think you can learn from anything. So it is difficult to try to navigate when you hear some criticism, especially if it's not really built in a constructive way or it's not necessarily from someone that you think might want you to just be better, what to throw away and what to hold on to. So I think that's, it's up to the individual and things like that. But as far as I go, I love to hear people not criticize, but I love feedback. I think feedback of any sort is always extremely good. I kind of grew up in a dance world where they were just like, good job, go to the back. It didn't really give me anything. Right. And I was eager to hear feedback of any sort. So I think criticism is a beautiful thing, but I think it's, again, that kind of coming back to, like, knowing who you are and knowing when you hear something, if you're going to allow it to sit with you, or if you're just going to allow it to kind of pass through. Thank you for your information that you've given me, but this isn't necessarily needed for my growth. Mm-hmm. But I think anyone can share something that's still helpful.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Criticism is good.
You're accepting.
Yeah.
I like that. Off the top of your head, any funny, interesting stories that have happened in your craft, empire, anything?
Fuck, yeah. The first thing I think of was in Chicago, and I was doing Vader, and it's got a 2-piece helmet. So I got the face on first, and then it kind of ties in the back, and then the top part of my helmet goes on top, right? And I'm just feeling like a badass, like I could take an entire galaxy and whatnot. And part of my helmet, like, I think I just did something with my belt, and it kind of clipped onto the back of the helmet. So literally just the face part of Vader was on, but my head was like rolling across the stage. And I just kind of said, and it's hard to see in those little goggles and stuff. And so I'm like, what was that weird thing? And then I just see like the top part of his head like rolling across the stage. And I'm just like, do I have to go get that right now and put it back on my head? Of course I did. I ran to it, put it on, tried to make it something, did a little 5, 6, 7, 8. But it is really silly. Like, these costumes are, very, what's the word? Fragile? Yeah. Fragile. Very fragile. So the littlest of things, and you're just feeling so sexy up on stage, and then next thing you know, half of your head is flying off, and it's very humbling. So that was a fun one.
They're fragile, but they're beautiful.
I
mean, they you can
fantastic.
Look at every character on stage and be like, oh, I know exactly who they are.
Yeah.
But you also get to see the burlesque twist to it.
Yeah, and it's the attention to detail was like my favorite part. Like the Boba Fett outfit is just I want to take it home. Same with Vader. I like want to steal it.
Gorgeous.
It's so fantastic. So yeah, the attention to detail was everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing.
It sounds horrible, but I kind of love watching things go wrong on stage.
Yes.
Because then I get to see the performer
live theater
adapt.
Yes.
And figure out how to do it. And their glasses fly off, mm-hmm. and then they just stare at it.
Right.
And you go like, well, that's not how you're supposed to go pick it up.
Yeah, that's how it was. I was worried that Vader's head was going to fly off into like the, front row, and they were probably just going to be like, no, it's mine now. Like, I would get excited if part of Vader's head came flying off. I would be like, this is mine. I caught it. Yep. It's just like baseball. I get to keep this now.
You can sign it, but that's about it.
But luckily it didn't. I caught it before. But yeah, I agree. I think it brings that thing, like everything is so edited now, and we watch a lot of Instagram videos and things like that like imperfections are like less and less. We just don't get to see them. So
there's beauty in imperfection.
The beautiful part of live theater, I think, is the little imperfections. I agree. Yeah.
Going further, what's next for the world of dance or burlesque? I usually ask this question in the sense of technology is influencing art a lot, the accessibility to art forms. For example, in Empire Strips Back, you have some amazing technology. You have an R2-D2 who makes it rain.
Yeah.
You have Tauntaun, you have a Jabba the Hutt that are inflatable and gorgeous. Do you think that we are going to continue to see this? I think with burlesque, it's all about bringing it back to those dance roots. Mm-hmm. But do you think they're complement each other?
I hope they do. I hope we figure out how, because my brain, when I think about the future of technology, goes to like AI and things, and I'm like, oh, we're not even going to be dancing up there. Some AI is going to be...
Well, C-3PO did do a dance.
C-3PO did do a dance, exactly. But, so I hope that we can preserve, like, parts of what I love the most about, like, the original trilogy of Star Wars is that you can see... like the people in the costume, like you can't see them obviously, but you can see the creation and you can see the like human-made aspect to it, and it makes it so much more fun to watch.
Or even Yoda was a puppet. You
exactly.
can tell.
Yeah, and so I hope that like, I love technology, I guess, and, like, where it's going and stuff, but I'm hopeful, especially in the burlesque world, that it will always carry those, like, foundations of, like, being this just, like most burlesque girls, they make their own costumes. They make their own thing. Like, it's a very, like, self-creative process that goes into one particular act and stuff. So, yes, I hope that we kind of incorporate technology and bring things into it and make it more exciting. But I also love the old school puppets and inflatable things. So, I don't know. I'm hopeful, but I like that old school aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it too. Yeah. I love watching it, even in theater, when you just get those big grand sets that you know they spent months in the shop working on. And nowadays, almost every tour has got a video wall behind it. And they can just project whatever they want.
Which is cool, but
it's cool.
Let's not lose
integrating
ourselves.
Different medias involved, but I agree. It just it takes away from that original art form.
Yeah.
Speaking of, what is next for Jordan? What's next for you personally? We mentioned a little bit of a unique idea that you want to do in the future as your own burlesque show.
That's our
you don't
own
have
secret.
That's
our secret.
It's brilliant, by the way.
It's great.
Look out for it.
It's gonna be fun. I think even how I found this show, things have always worked out organically. I work hard, but I've been lucky enough to, I feel kind of privileged when I say this, I haven't chased a lot of stuff. I feel grateful that I kind of find the right avenues to go towards. So I'm kind of in that place right now where I want to keep working. I'm trying to, continue training and be the best, like, performer and dancer. But I have no idea what I'm even doing after this current contract ends in Denver. So, like, trajectory could be anything at this point. I'm open. I'm at this, point in my life where I'm grown as fuck. I don't have a lot of, like, responsibilities and things holding me back. So I have some plans of, like, what maybe would happen, but if something came and kind of swept me off my feet and was like, you're going to this country or whatever, then I would take it and just, hold on. But I've always had dreams of, like, at least the next place that I'll pay consistent rent in, because I'm not doing that right now, would probably be, like, New York. I want to spend some time in New York. I have a lot of love for New York. That's just for training purposes and things, but within the next 5 to 10 years, I hope to be on the more creative, like, producing side of things. So once I'm kind of done being on stage and being the star, I would like to, I think we need more women up at the top.
Sure, absolutely.
Producers and things like that. So,
And where can we see your work or work like it?
Right now, currently with the Empire Strips Back, as we're touring around. Stay on the website if you want to check what dates and where we're at. Otherwise, really good, probably just Instagram, good old-fashioned Instagram. I'm not really on TikTok or anything else. And then just wherever I pop up, I'm just kind of out and about, traveling this country and whatnot. But
and what is your Instagram?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Instagram is at Oh Lordy, it's Jordy.
Oh Lordy, it's Jordy.
Oh Lordy, it's Jordy.
I've started ending my podcast with the question, if you could excel at any other craft besides the one that you're doing, what would you like to do?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, 2 came to mind.
Sure.
Would love to be, like, a dope-ass bass guitarist. Just think they're super sexy and really cool. That would be fun. Or, like, a digital artist. Like, I would love to be able to put the things that are up in my head either onto paper or, honestly, more so like an animated type sort of digital art. Would be really fun.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, I got a lot of, like, worlds in my head. I'm like, ooh, if only I could see this, that it would be fun to immerse myself in those and, like, see them. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you can get that opportunity.
Thanks, making me think more about it.
From what I've understood, you are a doer, and you like to go out and do it.
I do.
So
I do.
Best of luck in that. I can't thank you enough for joining me and piquing my interest about your craft. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
No, just shout out to all the dancers in the Bay. Shout out to all the dancers in the burlesque world. Thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for having me on this. This has been very fun. I haven't done a podcast before, so hopefully I didn't jump off on too many tangents. But yeah, super appreciative, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I am not plugging the show, but if you have the opportunity to see Empire Strips Back, the burlesque parody, it is mind-blowing and amazing. And thank you to all my peakers out there. Please let me know if you have any special or unique artists or art forms you think I should explore. Again, I am in Denver, sitting here with Jordan Singletary. Thank you for being here. Remember, creativity comes from the heart. Push yourselves. Be kind to each other. I'm Scoob Decker, and thank you for helping me pique my interest.
Hey.